I guarantee to the American public that ICE will not be around polling locations or voting locations in November?
I can't guarantee that an ICE agent won't be around a polling location in November. I mean, that's frankly a very silly hypothetical question.
Yeah, but is it though? Was it silly then? I mean, we all know what they're doing with ICE now. It has very little to do with immigration, and we know they want to rig the midterm. So I think it was a pretty good question by the reporter right there. And it's certainly looking less silly and less hypothetical with every passing day as people like Steve Bannon say, you're damn right, we're gonna put ICE all over the place. And now the actual formal effort to make it happen has begun because Republicans in a pretty key swing state over the last few election cycles have now put forward a bill to mandate ICE officers at every single polling place in the state. So that this is Arizona. And this week, the Arizona Senate is taking up a proposal to force all 15 of the state's counties to sign an agreement with ICE, quote, to provide for a federal immigration law enforcement presence at each location within the state where ballots are cast or deposited. So I assume that means like actual polling places, but hypothetically, if you're even legally allowed to have like ballot drop-off places, I guess ICE will be hanging around that too. And of course, as a lot of you know, polling places very frequently show up in a lot of different sorts of places. It could be like schools, for instance. I guess we're gonna have ICE hanging out at the schools, endangering your kids. So that's gonna be a lot of fun. And the debate on this bill could begin as early as, well, right now, I guess, like literally as we're doing this, they might be debating it. And there is a very strong case to be made that it actually would be illegal to do this. State Senator Jake Hoffman said that even if it passes, it seems to directly run afoul of federal law, which bars, quote, any troops or armed men who are part of the civil, military, or naval service of the United States from being deployed to polling locations. The only exception is if it's needed to repel armed enemies of the United States, which obviously would not be the case, although I would not pass the Republicans to imply that Trendy Rag was gonna rig the midterms or whatever. And so they're now saying, well, we'll just have the ICE not be armed, which easier said than done. I don't think those guys can physically put down their guns. So we'll see if that actually works. But the guy that is pushing for this, or one of the main Republicans pushing for it, was literally one of Arizona's fake electors in 2020. So he does know a little thing about election fraud, just not the sort of election fraud he's pretending to believe has been happening in Arizona. And to be clear, as we've been clear in all cases, there is no significant voter fraud in American elections. There has never been significant voter fraud in American elections, and it has been analyzed to death, and that applies as well for Arizona. Voting by non-citizens there is exceedingly rare, and Arizona voters already have to provide documented proof of citizenship in order to register to vote. One of the major parts of the SAVE Act is already law in Arizona, as well as they have to show their ID at the polls before being given a ballot. There has been no evidence of widespread voter fraud there. In fact, there was an analysis of the 2016 election, 23.5 million ballots analyzed across 42 jurisdictions. There were only 30 cases of even suspected non-citizen voting occurring. That is 0.0001%. Seems like hardly a crisis, Sharon, but what do you think?
I mean, with those odds, I mean, that's like the Maury Povich. You are the father. It's like it's right down, like they can't quite get 100%, but like you're the father, okay? We've been through this for so long, doesn't surprise me it's coming out of Arizona. We've been through Release the Kraken. We've been through Carrie Lake and her soft lens. There isn't fraud. And you are trying to keep people who have earned the right to vote. They're Americans and they're entitled to cast their ballots. And now you're just come out with it and admit it. They really don't even want to have an election. Can we just talk about that? They really don't want there to be an election. They want to just freeze things where they are now. And as they went into the White House, this Trump administration believed that this will go on forever and they'll never have to leave. So Just come out and say it because you're almost there. You're right up to the line.
Exactly. Yeah. No, they find all of this to be a total inconvenience, less inconvenient than it used to be because they have successfully suppressed it for a really long time. That's what I just want to very quickly just mention to people who might only be like into politics recently. We're covering the new efforts to suppress the vote, to try to rig the midterms. It's not like it was great before. It has always been needlessly difficult. You've never had the day off to vote. There's never been automatic registration. There's never been any of the stuff that most other actually serious democracies have locked down for literally decades. It has always been needlessly difficult. It's just becoming increasingly difficult. And look, it's hypothetically possible that this is just, conspiratorial Arizona Republicans that have come up with this. But some people have noticed a little coincidence, which is that this bill in Arizona to station ICE at every one of the ballot places materialized suspiciously soon after Kristi Noem visited the state. And it was actually her, she went there, she met with Arizona election officials. She started playing up how the DHS needs to be involved in voting infrastructure, which is not generally a thing that has ever happened. And it was actually while she was there in Arizona that she made these controversial statements.
Elections is another one of those critical infrastructure responsibilities that I have as well. And I would say that many people believe that it may be one of the most important things that we need to make sure we trust is reliable, and that when it gets to election day that we've been proactive to make sure that we have the right people voting, electing the right leaders to lead this country.
Again, yeah, the right voters. So whichever voters, I guess, they allow to continue voting. Once they've shrunken the voting pool down and down and down and made it inconvenient, made it expensive, made it elite and exclusionary, then they'll feel comfortable with it, I guess. And by the way, she claimed at that point that the Arizona elections were an absolute disaster because Trump has not always won there, and made the false claim that there's widespread voter fraud by illegal immigrants. Reporters asked her to provide examples, and she couldn't provide a single one, but then said, "Oh, I'm sure there's many of them, but then wouldn't it be easy for you to name a single one of them?" But you can't. You know what TYT has always been about? Taking on the corrupt, greedy establishment. For us, it's the corporate media. We've been fighting that fight for over 20 years. For the cell phone industry, it's the same story. A handful of massive corporations ripping you off. That's why we're partnering with Noble Mobile. They're the only wireless company with the same mission as ours, to fight back. Their Noble plan offers unlimited data for just $50 a month. But here's the best part. For any data that you don't use, you get cash back. Real money you can spend however you want. Stop letting your unused data pad the pockets of billionaires. With Noble, you take control over your data. And by switching to Noble, you're directly supporting TYT in our mission of bringing you honest, independent news. So give Noble a try and make the switch today. Scan the QR code on the screen now or visit go.tyt.com/plan. That's go.tyt.com/plan. And shouldn't you, before claiming that it's widespread, claiming that we need to clamp down on voting, that we need to make it significantly harder to vote, if you can't even name a single case of fraud happening there? Again, if you actually believed what you said you believed, then these would be devastating questions, but she barely even pretends to really believe it, so I'm sure she'll be okay, Sharon. What do you think?
Well, I'm just going to say this, and maybe it's too much for me to moonwalk all the way back here, but I also blame the Democrats for this. I blame anyone who did not or waited too long, I'll leave Jack Smith out of it, to prosecute these people to the fullest extent of the law. It should have happened immediately. Because they didn't, we're left with this woman, okay, with her lip injection holes, which, okay, maybe that's too far, maybe that's too much. We're left with her standing at a podium every day telling us lies, and people who are fake electors saying, "Oh yeah, we need to crack down even further." So let this be another lesson. Let's learn from history. And this time around, should there be an election that is somewhat fair and free and somebody else gets back in power, prosecute everyone. Just the truth, just follow the truth and put people away.
Exactly, 100%. By the way, as many people are pointing out, it is absurd that she's claiming the DHS now needs to be all involved in this. But like honestly, there is at least one way I could see it working, which is that if the Arizona Republicans end up passing this obviously illegal bill and surrounding the polling places with ICE, then I think DHS could help to secure our elections and access to vote by going and arresting those ICE agents, hauling them away in big vans and locking them up. And also, since these politicians know that they're breaking the law, potentially locking them up as well. That would actually safeguard our elections and provide a free path to the voting that should be our right.